Hello, everybody. I'm Amy. I'm the founder of Ready Aim Succeed Coaching. I'm a personal transformation coach and an astrology guide. Today, I'm going to help you understand how a birth chart influences your life and how I would use astrology guidance so that people understand themselves better. This is going to be quite a basic session. First of all, showing you what a birth chart looks like, and then talking about the different layers that can influence your life. So I'm also going to do another one which is on the planets. So this one originally is going to tell you about the zodiac signs and the astrology houses. If you are more interested in learning about how the planets influence you, there's going to be another webinar on that one. If this is the first one of yours that you're watching, I would watch this one first and then watch the planetary one afterwards. So first of all, this is what a birth chart looks like. So this birth chart is for a person who, imagine if they were in the centre here and on the day they were born, they looked up, and this is how the planets are laid out in this cycle. And a person takes a photo, and the photo then is a snapshot of the sky, showing where the planets were at the time of birth. So on the birth chart, you can see that there are the zodiac signs. So each zodiac sign are what you'll have heard of, no doubt, as a star sign. And when you read the horoscope in a magazine about your star sign is actually your sun sign. And that means it's where the sun was at the time of being born. But in magazines, they tend to call it a star sign. So when you look at this, you've got the different zodiac signs around the outside cycle. You've got astrology houses. There are 12 astrology houses, and each house represents a different area of your life. Then, of course, you've got the scattering of planets. And then in the centre here, these lines represent almost conversations between the planets. So these are called aspects. They are looked at through the different degrees that planets are sat to each other, depending on the degree that they're sat and having that conversation. That is whether it's going to be conflict, so a challenging conversation, or harmonious, positive conversation. So some of these conversations can be harmonious and supportive through life, other ones can be more challenging and not quite as supportive. You'll also see that there are quite a lot of planets around this bottom area and the top, and then there's big areas here with no planets in. That's not a problem. Some people worry that when there aren't planets in a house that's an issue. It's not. It just means that the only thing influencing that area of your life is the zodiac sign. Imagine the zodiac sign is like an influence, a lens over this life, this area of life, I should say. So on this one, Aries is the lens that they're looking out onto the area of their life, which is astrology house number 8. On the other hand, if you move into here, where the planets are, this is where the planets are going to start causing more influences and more impact. And as you can see down here, there's a lot of activity and there's a lot of messages coming down here. So where all these planets are, it's likely that this person has got a lot of activity going on in their houses of 3, 4, and 5, and not quite as much activity going on in the other houses. So moving on, I'm going to split it up and explain about the zodiac, how they work as a lens and influence your life. Then I'm going to move into what the different astrology houses are and how people's birth charts are different. As you can imagine, the birth chart's going to be different depending on where the planets sit in the sky. That's a very large one. But also people's zodiac signs. Imagine this is a wheel that moves and the houses move. So imagine they might match up to different signs. This is where a person's first house can be influenced by a different zodiac sign. So my first house is Virgo. That's what this Virgo symbol is. But the next person's house might be Libra. So they could have found that the sun rose on the day of their birth on the horizon, the Libra constellation, and that becomes their first house instead. But I'm going to get into that a bit more and help you understand it. So first of all, we've got this same cycle. This one's the zodiac cycle. So it's got the same 12 sections as before. Starting at Aries, the zodiac moves anti-clockwise around the cycle. There are the 12 zodiac symbols. And here you've got a brief description of each one. Now, these may be what you recognize if you know much about star signs or sun signs or the zodiac signs. They're all sort of the same thing. If you have a friend who says they're a Sagittarius and you know what a Sagittarius' like typical traits are, they are adventurous and optimistic. On the other hand, you might have another friend who, let's say, is empathic and imaginative, and they say they're a Pisces. So now, if a person came to you and said, "Oh, I'm a Taurus," you know how they're immediately describing themselves in terms of this zodiac sign. So the Taurus tend to be quite grounded, steady, sensual, quite disciplined, and hardworking. So each of these zodiac signs not just explains what a person is like in terms of it being their star or sun sign, but also these become a lens that sit over their birth chart. And where the constellations are, they're obviously always going to be in the same position for every person, but the sun is going to rise at a different place each day. And where the sun rises, that's going to become the first house. And that's where things start to get shaken up a little bit, and people start to become quite different people when we look at these maps. So imagine we move on to the next cycle, and this cycle represents the different astrology houses. There are 12 houses. They also move anti-clockwise around this cycle, and an astrology house basically means it's an area of your life. Each house stands for a different area, such as house number 1 is self and identity, personality and mask. As you can see, each house has got a different description. There are more in-depth descriptions that you can find. I've just put the keywords here to help you out and see how different each house is. So each life area is going to be covered by a house. The houses are the same for everybody. So house number 1 is always about the self and identity, their personality and the mask. So how they come across to people. House number 2 is always going to be about values, income and material security, and so on around this cycle. So moving on to the next wheel, this is bringing it all together. So imagine you've got your astrology houses from 1 to 12, which are the life areas. You've got the zodiac symbols, the constellations in the sky, from Aries round to Pisces, the 12 different zodiac signs, all in that same order for everybody. Now, this person, as you can see, this stands for the sun. And the sun is their sun sign or their star sign. So, what you would look up for a horoscope. And the sun sign itself only represents one very small part of the person. They also have a rising sign, also called the ascendant, which is here, and they have a moon sign. So these 3 are key ingredients to that person's characteristics, the traits they represent, their personality. The rising sign is where the sun rose on the horizon the day this person was born. So when this person was born, on that day, the sun rose in this constellation area of Virgo. So where the sun rose then automatically becomes this person's first house. The next day, if a person was born and the sun rose in the Libra constellation, that means that their house will be number 1 instead. So Libra becomes number 1. So your rising sign can be any of these 12 signs. My rising sign is Virgo. Someone else could quite easily have their rising sign is Aries, and therefore the first astrology house for them is under the Aries lens. So their zodiac cycle, house number 1 starts here instead. 1, 2, 3, working around, which means that we still talk about the same house number 1. We might still both talk about how we feel about the way we represent ourselves to other people, whether we are confident to come across as our true selves or whether we feel we have to mask. Now, my house number 1 is influenced by the Virgo lens, which is quite analytical. People can overthink when the Virgo is quite perfectionist, whereas an Aries is quite bold and leader. So they could come across much bolder and not really overthink what people think about them, not really feel the need to mask as much. So if you were to grab your birth chart now and compare it to here, you should see your zodiac signs, and you should see the different numbers. And now you'll be able to see, have a look where house number 1 is. So when you find house number 1, now you know that is where the sun rose on the horizon the day you were born. And whatever zodiac sign is next to it, that zodiac sign is what's influencing your first house. So the way that you see yourself, the way you represent yourself to other people. So moving on, I like to call the planets different ingredients, and imagine the planets are in different spaces in the zodiac wheel. So this person, I said before, has got more activity going on in the houses 3, 4, and 5. Some of these houses are empty, so they're just influenced, as you know now, by the different lens. To pull this all together, imagine that you're in the middle here, and this is a large room. These are doors that are all labelled with different numbers. So there are 12 doors, there are 12 rooms, and there are 12 windows. And you walk from the middle here, and let's walk through door number 11. And we're going to go into this room, which is of the life area, so the 11th astrology house. And this person has got Cancer as their zodiac sign, overlooking astrology house or life area 11. Life area 11 is about hope and luck. It's about community, your neighbours. It's about working with people who aren't your family, for instance, working with the larger groups, your friendship groups, the collective. And maybe if you are a member of a group or you go out and you have hobbies and you're part of groups, is part of that wider picture, like the wider community. So this person is likely to act with this Cancerian influence over that 11th house. And that means that they're quite nurturing, they can be quite sensitive. If you think of Cancer, the symbol is a crab, which means they're quite, maybe they might come across quite hard on the exterior, but the interior is quite sensitive. So although they can come across as nurturing with empathy, they can also be sensitive in terms of if a person were to talk to them in a certain way, it can inwardly affect them. On the other hand, if I were to come out of house 11 and walk out, and let's go into the door number 7. So going through door number 7, you're going to be looking out on the area of life or astrology house number 7. Number 7 is about partnerships. So as I said before, everybody's houses are the same. So number 7, when I talk about the house of partnerships, that is the same for all of us. Partnerships are professional and also romantic. They are one-to-one partnerships. So it could be, for instance, in my business, if I got a business partner, it can be my one-to-ones I have with my clients, but it can also be romantic relationships too. It's also about shared resources in this house. So this person is looking through the partnerships area of their life through a Pisces lens. Pisces is a water symbol. Of course, it's usually represented with the fishes. Oh my God, with the fish. I'm not redoing this webinar because I've probably tried to do it 6 times now. Just to let you all know, I get distracted easily. And if I stop thinking about what I'm doing because I've got ADHD, I will just talk, either go off on a tangent or just say the wrong words, which is just ridiculous. So I need to pull myself back in the room and properly think about what I'm doing. So I'm back. Right. So imagine this person in the 7th house is overlooking this area of their life through the Pisces window. Pisces is quite intuitive, quite sensual, dreamy. They can look at the world in a more sort of basically relying on their intuition. They can be quite dreamy as well. So the way they're looking at partnerships, maybe with that more dreamy aspect of they might like the romance in a partnership. They could be quite sort of imaginative as well with their partnerships. And that's also in the professional sense. So I suppose for me, I mean, you know, I do coaching, I do personal transformation coaching, I use trauma-informed techniques to help people who are recovering from challenges and to move forward in life. And I also use astrology guidance. But I'm here today having made a webinar to tell people how to understand a birth chart, and I've built this on Canva. So that just shows I'm quite creative. Now, you may think, what's that got to do with the 7th house? But this webinar is to support people who are likely to be interested in astrology, and therefore the sort of people I would work with or talk to in future. So I hope that's helped so far. Just to give you a bit more detail here, so just to cover again some of what we've gone through. So the different signs are the different lens that you're perceiving each house through. The houses are each area of your life. The planets, imagine that they are the flavour, they're your ingredients, and they are how they influence your life. The nodes, these are what you're here to release and move towards. So this is the North Node here. And in a birth chart, when I'm supporting a person to find direction or have clarity as to the way forward, or they're unsure, or there's repeating patterns in their life, this is what I look at. And this is the South Node. So the South Node is what you're here to release, and the North Node is what you're here to move towards. As you're moving towards this North Node, that is you aligning with your purpose. So I would look for you at where the South Node is, in which house, and work out which area you should be moving away from. It doesn't mean physically moving away. For instance, house number 3 is about siblings and childhood learning, early education, early learning to speak and write. It doesn't mean that you'd be walking away from your siblings and have nothing to do with them. What it means is walking away or releasing, for instance, things like old beliefs and old behaviours. It may be breaking cycles that are repeating. That can be generational patterns. Either breaking that cycle or releasing them or improving them so that you can move forward more in alignment and in harmony and along to your North Node. And that can be in all different ways. Because of course this North Node and South Node, these are always going to be opposite each other, but the North Node could be in any of these 12 signs. So that means the person is going to be moving towards a different house area. Where you've got the planets, then these further ingredients are how supportive or challenging each area might be. So that is something else that I go into in a birth chart report, where I explain to a person not only what each of the zodiac signs mean, as I have done today, also what each house stands for, what each planet stands for, and how they influence that person's life. So you will learn from this birth chart how each of the planets here, whether they're challenging a life area or whether they're supportive. You have got outer and inner planets. So the inner planets we call the personal planets. They are the planets that move faster and are closer to Earth. So such as the moon. The moon will move through an astrology house about every 2 to 3 days. So the moon is quite fast and it will get around the zodiac cycle quickly. On the other hand, as you know, the sun sits in a zodiac sign for about a month, and that's how we have our different sun or star signs. On the other hand, we've got outer planets and they move a lot slower. So this one is Saturn. Saturn takes around 30 years to get around the whole way of this zodiac cycle. Saturn is an outer planet, slower moving. When the outer planet moves, it means they have more of an impact on community as a whole rather than just on the individual. Also, it can be quite a significant impact because it takes so long for them to move from one sign to the next. It's going to take such a long time for Saturn to move out of this Scorpio house that when it finally moves into Sagittarius, that's quite a different impact on that person. But like I say, an impact actually on the whole community, globally, that difference can come across. You may see that in events that happen politically, so not just small things that are happening in your life. I say small things, it probably will feel big to you, but on the grand scheme of things, it's small in comparison. So you would learn about how these different planets are going to affect you, how they affect you when they're moving direct and when they're moving in retrograde. When a planet is retrograde, it looks like it's going backwards in the sky. It's not actually going backwards, it's just because the speed of the planet's changing and it gives that appearance of it moving backwards. When a planet is retrograde, it has a different influence on you. It's more of an inward influence. When it goes direct again, it's got more of an outer active influence where you're putting down whatever you've reflected on the internal changes you've made. You are making the changes in terms of externally in your life. These lines here are aspects. So these are the different angles and the different conversations between the planets. So different relationships between the planets can be harmonious or they could be challenging. And again, that's going to have different influences over your chart. So if you imagine this is just one birth chart, your birth chart could be totally different. If you imagine you were born a month, say for instance, with the same age, but you were born a different month to me, your sun is in a different space. So it's going to be in a different zodiac sign. So straight away, your sun sign is not necessarily Scorpio. Also, your rising sign could be different. It's not necessarily Virgo. So straight away, those two main ingredients, we could be very different people. Now, when you've got these different ingredients, it's quite interesting to compare your chart to friends or family members or your partners, because you can see how you can work together and where you might find it more challenging. That's really interesting because it can actually help you if you're having relationship problems, like maybe struggling to communicate. You can learn where your communication preferences are. You can also learn from where the moon is positioned, what makes you feel emotionally secure. And when you learn each other's moon sign, it can really help you to know each other on a deeper level and know how the other person almost wants to be talked to, wants to be made to feel emotionally secure. And it could be very different from the other half. So that's a really interesting thing to learn. And one more thing I'm going to touch on, it's quite a big one that I use in my astrology guidance sessions, is this one, which is Chiron. Chiron is known as a wounded healer, and Chiron is a wound that needs to be healed throughout your lifetime. This person's wound is in the area of area of the astrology house number 10, life area of career, public reputation, and recognition. So their wound is in this house area, which means over the years they're going to be trying to heal that wound. By a wound, obviously, it's sort of inside of you. It's imagine you have fallen over, you've cut your knee, and it's scraped off the skin and you're bleeding. And the next day, it's not going to be totally healed. It's going to take a bit of time for it to heal. Imagine the Chiron wound is like that. It can be healed, it can be a slow process, and it is healed once you recognize what that problem is. You may already be aware of what your Chiron wound is. For instance, if you keep finding your relationships are following the same patterns, and the same things are triggering you or upsetting you, and emotionally it feels like an emotional wound is twinging, that could well be the Chiron wound. We'd be able to look that up from your birth chart, and in that case we would discuss how you're going to heal that wound. The more you heal that wound, it's helping you because it means, for instance, you may be setting boundaries, you're communicating better in a relationship, or you're only getting into relationships that truly align with you and your own values. So that is a really big part of the astrology readings I do. Moving on from here, so the personal birth chart, so like I say, every birth chart is unique. The planetary positions are like telling your story. And the South Node is your past habits and patterns that you need to release. The North Node is soul growth and life purpose that you're moving towards. Karmic themes are the patterns that keep repeating and challenging you. And Chiron is that wounded healer. So that's where you may see something keeps triggering you, and that's what is there to be healed. But once it's healed, it becomes a strength and it is wisdom. I help people move from past to purpose, and this QR code does lead you to my website if you'd like to have a look at more of my work. If you're interested, you can also book a free discovery call and you can learn how a birth chart can particularly help you. So you can have 30-minute free call. We can talk about what a birth chart would look like, what it is you're hoping to learn, and I can tell you how the birth chart can help you with that. Now, you may just be curious about astrology and you literally just want to learn what it looks like in your birth chart. In that case, you can get a report sent to you by email and you can just study it yourself in your own time. On the other hand, if you want to look at it on a deeper level because you really want to make change in your life, or on the other hand, you are absolutely new to astrology and you need a bit more guidance, you can book something like my Cosmic Clarity session. And that comes with a 2-hour guidance session. As this person found who left this testimonial, it helped them to really learn more about themselves, not just their present life, but the past and the future. The people I work with, my clients, they are all, male and female, all different ages, all different backgrounds. I've had such a variety of clients and coming for different reasons. Some of my clients come because maybe they're in between jobs and they're unsure of the way forward. Some people might be in a relationship and they feel it's not quite going right and they want to learn what they can do differently, or is it even the right relationship? It doesn't mean that your birth chart is going to absolutely tell you set in stone decisions to make. It is still up to you. You've still got that free will, but it gives you an idea of why you might be influenced to perceive things in a certain way. So if you'd like to contact me, this is my website here. I'm Amy at Ready Aim Succeed Coaching, and here's my phone number. And if you'd like to get in touch, whether just to have a chat, find out a bit more, or to book that free discovery call, please don't. There's no pressure to become a client. Obviously, all the details of my different packages are on my website too. You've also got with the birth chart, so earlier on I mentioned about the planets are like different ingredients. I'm going to do another webinar, and that is where it's talking about the planets themselves, and where I call them different ingredients, it'll come to life more with this session to help you understand what I mean by ingredients and how they can affect you. So that will be the next level on from this one. So look out for that one. I will pop the link in this the webinar notes here, and I hope to see you again. Please do follow me if you're interested, or share this so that I can start getting more eyes on the work that I do. I really want to help more people move from past to purpose, so the more people who know about my work, the better. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.